The palace of the Ilari Empire floated like a silver star above a world that had never known war. Its towers curved toward the sky like living crystal, reflecting the light of distant suns. Inside its halls, every movement followed ancient tradition, every word carried weight, and every decision shaped entire star systems. Queen Serathil ruled from the highest chamber, a place where silence itself felt respectful. She was old by the standards of most species, though she showed no weakness. Her presence was calm, controlled, and powerful. The galaxy feared her not because she shouted or threatened, but because she understood everything before anyone else did. The Ilari had ruled for thousands of cycles. They believed themselves beyond surprise. That belief ended on a quiet morning. Princess Kalira stood alone in a research corridor far from the throne room. She had always preferred science labs to royal celebrations. The sound of machines felt more honest than the whispers of nobles. She watched a holographic model of a human DNA strand rotate slowly in front of her. Humans were strange. They were new to space travel compared to older civilizations. Their technology was rough, their diplomacy emotional, their decisions unpredictable. Many powerful species avoided close partnerships with them, but Kalira saw something different. Humans survived. They did not surrender when they should. They did not give up when logic said they should fail. Their stories were filled with impossible recoveries and unlikely hope. She had studied them quietly for years. Her assistants often asked why a royal princess would focus so deeply on such a young species. She never answered fully. Part of the reason was loneliness. Another part was curiosity. But the deepest reason was something she rarely allowed herself to admit. Humans felt real to her in a way that her own world sometimes did not. Footsteps approached behind her. Commander Elias Rowan stopped beside the hologram display. He wore the uniform of the human exploratory fleet, slightly worn at the edges, as if he had traveled through storms that others avoided. "You always look at it like it's going to reveal a secret," he said gently. Kalira smiled faintly. She liked how he spoke without fear. Most beings carefully chose their words around her. "Every species hides secrets inside its design," she replied. "Humans hide many." He crossed his arms, studying the floating model. "We mostly just hide snacks and bad decisions," he said. She laughed quietly, and the sound surprised even her. Their meetings had begun months ago as formal exchanges between cultures, but over time they had become something else. Conversations stretched longer. Silence between them felt comfortable rather than awkward. Rowan never treated her like a fragile symbol. He asked about her interests. He argued with her theories. He listened when she spoke. For someone raised inside endless expectations, that was rare. What she did not tell him was the truth about her body. From birth, royal scientists had told her she could never carry life. A genetic instability prevented reproduction. The royal bloodline would end with her generation. Her mother had never said it openly, but Kalira had seen the quiet grief behind her eyes. She had accepted it long ago. It was simply her fate. Outside the research station, human ships and Ilari vessels drifted together peacefully. It was a symbol of unity between civilizations. No one expected anything more. Weeks passed. Conversations turned into shared meals, shared research, shared laughter. The connection between them grew naturally, without pressure or intention. Neither planned for it. Neither understood how deeply it had already changed them. Far away in the palace, Queen Serathil reviewed reports from the exchange program. She noticed the frequency of her daughter's interactions with the human commander. She did not interfere. Observation was more powerful than control. Still, something unsettled her. The Ilari valued stability above all things. Humans represented change, and rapid change often brought chaos. One morning, Kalira felt different, not sick, not weak, just altered. She ignored it at first. Royal duties filled her schedule when she returned to the capital. Diplomats arrived from distant systems. Council debates grew louder as new alliances formed, but the feeling remained. Finally, she visited the Royal Medical Wing. The physicians scanned her quietly. Their calm expressions slowly shifted into confusion, then disbelief. "Princess," one said carefully, "we must repeat this test." They ran it again, and again. Silence filled the room. Kalira watched their faces change and felt fear slowly rise. "What is wrong?" she asked. No one answered immediately. One physician finally turned toward her. "There is life developing within you." The words felt unreal. "That is impossible," she said softly. The physician swallowed. Yes, that is what we believed. The palace alarms did not sound, but an invisible wave moved through the royal systems, private channels activated, high-clearance protocols engaged. Within minutes, Queen Serathil received the report. She read it once. Then again, her hands did not shake, her face did not change, but something deep inside her shifted. She summoned her daughter immediately. Kalira entered the throne chamber alone. The vast room felt colder than usual. The queen stood from her throne and approached slowly. "Tell me," she said gently, "what you know." Kalira did not hide the truth. The queen listened without interruption. When she heard the name Elias Rowan, she closed her eyes briefly. A human. The queen ordered immediate genetic analysis. Results arrived quickly. They were impossible. The infertility gene had stabilized, corrected. Human DNA patterns had integrated with Elari sequences in ways never seen before. The queen read the report in silence. Shock did not show on her face. But when she finally looked at her daughter, her voice carried something rare. Concern. "This will change everything," she said quietly. Kalira nodded. "I know." Outside the chamber, whispers began spreading among royal staff. Something extraordinary had happened. Something that could not remain hidden forever. The queen dismissed everyone except her daughter. "Are you afraid?" she asked. Kalira considered the question. "Yes," she admitted, "but not of the child." The queen studied her carefully. "Humans are unpredictable," she said. "So are we," Kalira replied softly. That answer stayed with the queen long after their conversation ended. Later that night, she stood alone beside a window overlooking the stars. Thousands of worlds depended on her strength, her decisions, her control. And now something entirely beyond control had begun. She did not fear weakness. She feared uncertainty, and humanity was uncertainty made flesh. Far below in a guest chamber, Elias Rowan stared at the stars as well, unaware of how deeply his life was about to change. The news did not explode across the empire in one loud announcement. It moved like a silent storm, first through encrypted medical channels, then through restricted royal systems, then through whispers in the High Council. By the time the sun rose over the capital world, every powerful figure in the empire knew one truth. The infertile princess carried a child, and the father was human. The High Council gathered in the circular chamber beneath the palace. Tall figures with silver skin and glowing eyes stood around a floating table of light. Their voices remained calm, but tension filled the air like static before lightning. This is biological instability. It is contamination. It is political danger. It is evolution. The last voice was quiet. It belonged to one of the oldest counselors who rarely spoke. Most ignored him. Queen Serathil entered the chamber without announcement. The room fell silent immediately. She did not sit. She stood at the center and allowed her gaze to pass across every face. "You have read the reports," she said. "Yes, Your Majesty," one counselor answered. "We request authorization to conduct deeper testing and—" "You have already conducted deeper testing," she interrupted calmly. Silence. No one dared deny it. The data was clear. The hybrid child showed perfect cellular harmony, no rejection, no instability, no biological collapse. In fact, the readings showed something far more troubling: improvement. The Elari genome carried ancient weaknesses buried deep inside their royal line. Those flaws had slowly limited reproduction for centuries. The infertility condition that affected Kalira was only the latest sign, but the human DNA had not damaged the structure. It had corrected it, not forcefully, not aggressively, but through adaptation. That word made several council members uneasy. Humans adapted too quickly. They survived climates that killed stronger species. They rebuilt after disasters that erased civilizations. They fought, yes, but more than that, they endured. And now their biology had done something no advanced genetic laboratory had managed in 1,000 cycles. The queen studied the faces around her. "You fear this child," she said quietly. "We fear instability," another counselor replied. "You fear losing control," she corrected. No one answered. Meanwhile, in a guarded chamber on the palace's lower level, Commander Elias Rowan sat under quiet observation. He was not imprisoned. He was not restrained. But armed guards stood outside. He understood the situation. He had studied enough galactic politics to know that this was no longer personal. An officer entered the room. "The Queen requests your presence." Rowan stood calmly. When he entered the throne chamber, the scale of the place still impressed him. Light curved along the walls like flowing water. The ceiling shimmered with artificial stars. Queen Serathil waited alone. He bowed respectfully, though not deeply. "You understand the situation," she began. "Yes," he answered. "You understand that this event may destabilize multiple star systems." "Yes. And yet you remain calm." He met her gaze. "Your Majesty, with respect, humans live with uncertainty every day. We are not built for control. We are built for survival." The Queen studied him carefully. "You do not fear death?" "Of course I do," he said honestly, "but fear does not decide my actions." "And what does?" "Responsibility." The word lingered in the air. She stepped closer. "You are aware that factions within this empire demand removal of the pregnancy." His jaw tightened, but his voice stayed steady. "I am aware. And if I permitted it," he did not raise his voice, "I would not allow it." The statement was bold, dangerous. But he did not say it as a threat. He said it as truth. The Queen noticed. "You believe you could resist an empire?" "No," he replied, "but I would stand anyway." Silence stretched between them. For thousands of cycles, the Elari had measured strength through power, fleets, and advanced technology. Humans measured strength differently, through choice, through loyalty, through standing even when defeat was certain. The Queen dismissed him with a single motion. As he left, she felt something unfamiliar growing inside her thoughts: respect. Elsewhere in the palace, Princess Kalira walked slowly through a private garden. Soft blue plants glowed faintly around her. She placed a hand gently over her abdomen. She could feel it now. Energy. Warmth, life, not unstable, not fragile, strong, stronger than expected. Her personal physician approached carefully. "The energy output is increasing," he reported. "In what way?" she asked. "It is stabilizing your own neural patterns. Your previous genetic irregularities are correcting." She closed her eyes briefly. For her entire life, she had carried the quiet knowledge that she was the end of something. Now she felt like the beginning. But outside those peaceful gardens, tension grew sharper. News leaked beyond the capital. Several outer systems began broadcasting concerns. Some species praised the Union as a sign of unity. Others declared it unnatural. A small extremist faction within the empire activated hidden fleets without authorization. The Queen was informed immediately. "They are mobilizing toward the capital," an officer said. "Without my command?" "Yes, Your Majesty." The Queen's eyes hardened. "They will stand down." "They refuse." She turned slowly toward the window overlooking space. The galaxy was watching. If she responded with force, she risked civil conflict. If she showed weakness, she risked collapse. Then another report arrived. The hybrid child's energy signature had begun resonating beyond the palace. Ships in orbit detected harmonic pulses moving through subspace channels. Scientists ran calculations repeatedly. The conclusion unsettled them all. The child's genetic fusion allowed communication at a frequency neither pure Elari nor pure human could access alone. It was not simply stronger, it was broader, a bridge. In the High Council chamber, debates grew louder. "This cannot continue." "It already has," another replied. "You suggest we embrace it." "I suggest we study it before we destroy what may save us." The Queen re-entered the chamber and projected the newest data into the center of the room. "You speak of risk," she said, "yet you ignore decline." She revealed archived genetic charts showing centuries of slow reproductive failure within the royal line. "Without correction, this empire will weaken regardless." The chamber fell silent. "Humans did not conquer us," she continued. "They did not invade, they did not sabotage, they connected." One counselor spoke hesitantly. "And if this child grows beyond our control?" The Queen answered calmly. "Then we adapt, as humans do." That answer shocked them more than the pregnancy itself. Meanwhile, the unauthorized fleet approached the capital perimeter. They transmitted a message demanding immediate termination of the hybrid child for species purity. Elias Rowan stood beside Kalira in the observation chamber as warning signals flashed across distant space. He felt fear, but he did not move away from her. "Are you afraid?" she asked him quietly. "Yes," he said honestly, "but not of them." She smiled faintly. Outside, the Queen's command fleet formed a defensive line, not to attack the rebels but to block them. She opened a direct channel. "You approach without sanction," she said. "We approach to preserve the empire," the rebel leader replied. "You approach to preserve fear." Silence. Then the child's energy pulse intensified. Across every ship in orbit, systems flickered, not damaged but synchronized. Human vessels and Elari ships both detected the same harmonic frequency. For the first time in galactic history, two fundamentally different technologies resonated perfectly. The rebel fleet hesitated. Their targeting systems briefly lost alignment, not through sabotage, but through interference from the harmonic pulse. The Queen understood instantly. The child was not attacking, it was connecting. She spoke clearly across all channels. "You fear change," she said. "But change has already begun." The rebel leader lowered his fleet's weapons slowly. Uncertainty replaced aggression. Back inside the palace, Kalira felt the pulse calm again. Rowan looked at her with quiet amazement. "Humans survive," he said softly. "But maybe we also build." She placed her hand over his. "You built this," she replied. In the High Council chamber, several members stared at the data in disbelief. The hybrid life inside the princess had just prevented civil war, not through force, but through resonance. The Queen stood tall. "For thousands of cycles," she said, "we ruled through superiority." She looked toward the stars. "Perhaps it is time we rule through unity." The council did not cheer, they did not celebrate, but for the first time they did not argue. Outside, the rebel fleet withdrew slowly. Across the galaxy, broadcasts shifted in tone. What had begun as scandal was transforming into something else: possibility. And at the center of it all was a human, a species once dismissed as young and unstable, standing calmly beside a royal princess, not with ambition for power, but with steady loyalty. The Queen watched them from a distance. She understood now that this was no simple biological event. It was a turning point. The Empire had not been invaded. It had evolved. And evolution, once begun, could not be reversed. The capital world had never felt so quiet. Even the flowing lights that usually moved across the palace towers seemed slower, as if the entire empire was holding its breath. Princess Kalira stood near a wide window, watching distant stars burn softly against the dark sky. Her hands rested gently over her abdomen. The energy inside her had grown stronger in recent days. Not painful, not frightening, just powerful. Behind her, Elias Rowan adjusted the collar of his uniform nervously. He tried to hide it, but he felt the weight of everything pressing down at once. He had faced storms, battles, and deep space isolation before, but nothing compared to this moment. This was not about survival anymore. It was about the future. Medical teams moved quietly around the chamber. Ilari technology hummed softly, monitoring every heartbeat, every energy pulse. Human doctors worked beside alien specialists without hesitation. At first their methods had clashed, but now they moved like a single team. The hybrid child had changed more than genetics. It had changed cooperation itself. Outside the chamber, Queen Serathil walked through long halls lined with ancient symbols. Every step felt heavier than the last. For thousands of cycles, she had ruled without uncertainty. Every decision came from logic, experience, and control. Now she faced something she could not fully predict, and that frightened her more than war ever had. A council advisor approached her quickly. "The energy readings are rising again, Your Majesty. Is the princess stable?" "Yes." "And the child?" "Stronger than expected." The Queen nodded slowly. She dismissed the advisor and continued walking. Memories surfaced uninvited. The day Kalira had been born, the silent disappointment when doctors announced infertility, the quiet acceptance that the royal line would end peacefully without chaos. She had prepared herself for that future. She had not prepared for this one. Inside the medical chamber, Kalira felt a sudden wave of warmth flow through her body. The lights flickered gently. Instruments displayed new patterns that made scientists stare in disbelief. Rowan stepped closer. "Is it starting?" he asked softly. She nodded. "Yes." Her voice was calm, but her eyes carried both excitement and fear. The medical teams activated additional support systems. Soft energy fields surrounded the room, not as barriers but as stabilizers. The hybrid energy signature expanded outward in slow waves. Across the palace, systems synchronized automatically. Outside in orbit, ships detected harmonic pulses spreading through space like invisible music. Some crew members described it later as feeling peaceful. Others said it felt like hope. Queen Serathil reached the chamber doors but stopped before entering. She listened to the distant hum inside. For the first time in centuries, she hesitated, not because she feared danger, because she felt uncertainty about who she would become after this moment. She entered quietly. Kalira saw her immediately. Their eyes met. No words were needed. The process continued for hours. Unlike traditional Elari birth, this one blended human biology with alien energy patterns. Human doctors suggested physical grounding techniques. Elari healers guided neural synchronization. Together, they created something entirely new. Rowan never left Kalira's side. He held her hand, spoke softly, and followed every instruction without hesitation. Queen Serathil watched him carefully. He was tired, frightened, completely out of his element, yet he did not step back. He did not demand control. He simply remained. That quiet loyalty spoke louder than any speech. Outside the palace, crowds gathered. News networks across star systems broadcast live updates. Some watched with hope, others with fear. Many waited to see whether the child would survive. Because if it did, nothing would remain the same. Suddenly, the energy readings surged. Alarms activated briefly before stabilizing again. Light filled the chamber, soft but intense. The hybrid energy signature expanded rapidly, linking human technology and Elari systems in perfect harmony. Scientists stared at their screens in disbelief. Neural resonance increasing. Cellular regeneration at unprecedented levels. Genetic stability confirmed. Kalira cried out as the final stage began. Rowan tightened his grip on her hand. "You're doing great," he whispered. She smiled faintly despite the strain. "You sound like you've done this before." "I haven't," he admitted, "but humans pretend confidence when we're terrified." That made her laugh softly, even in pain. The queen stepped closer, unable to remain distant any longer. This was her daughter, her child, her future. The room filled with light. Then suddenly a cry, strong, clear, alive. The energy pulse stabilized instantly. Medical readings shifted from chaotic to perfectly balanced. One doctor lifted the newborn carefully. Silence filled the chamber. The child opened its eyes. Soft light reflected within them, not overwhelming but warm. Human softness mixed with Elari brilliance. Perfect harmony. Kalira reached out with trembling hands. Rowan helped support her as she held the child for the first time. Tears filled his eyes, though he tried to hide them. Queen Serathil stepped forward slowly. She had faced galactic wars without emotion, yet now her chest felt tight. She looked at the child. She expected instability, danger, uncertainty. Instead, she felt something unexpected, peace. The child's energy resonated gently with everyone in the room. Fear faded, tension eased, scientific reports appeared instantly. The infertility gene was gone. Not suppressed, erased completely. And within the hybrid structure was a new pattern, one that allowed cross-species compatibility beyond previous limits. This child was not only alive, it was a bridge. The queen felt the weight of centuries pressing down on her. Her empire had survived by preserving purity, strength, and control. Humans had survived through connection, through empathy, through cooperation. She looked at Rowan again. He stood quietly beside Kalira, not proud, not demanding recognition, just present. The crown on her head suddenly felt heavier than ever before. Slowly, without thinking, she removed it. The metal felt cold in her hands. She stepped closer to the cradle where the child now rested peacefully. Her fingers loosened. The crown slipped from her grasp and struck the polished floor with a clear, ringing sound. Gasps filled the room. No ruler had dropped the crown in recorded history, but she did not pick it up. Instead, she knelt beside her daughter and the child. "This," she said quietly, "is not the end of our empire." Her voice grew stronger. "It is the beginning of something greater." Across the galaxy, broadcasts captured the moment. The queen of the Elari kneeling beside a human and her daughter, not in defeat, in recognition. Outside, fleets that once prepared for conflict powered down their weapons. Civilizations watching from distant systems felt something shift inside them. Humanity had not conquered through force. They had changed the future through connection. The child moved slightly, and a soft wave of energy spread outward again. Ships synchronized. Communication channels aligned effortlessly. Even distant species felt the harmony. Queen Serathil finally picked up the crown. She did not place it back on her head. Instead, she set it gently beside the cradle. The message was clear. The future would not belong to one species alone, it would belong to unity. Rowan looked at Kalira and smiled softly. "We did something impossible," he whispered. She nodded. "No," she replied. "We became something new." And for the first time in thousands of cycles, the ancient empire did not look toward the past for strength. It looked toward the future, a future shaped by a child born from two worlds. A future where humanity's greatest power was not strength, not technology, not dominance, but heart.